So I am glad to be back again. I think the last time I uploaded a video on YouTube was 2017 or maybe 2018, but it's been a while and I don't even know what happened to that channel. It was doing great, but time goes on or time moves on. So, sorry, let's move on. So this channel will be I'll be uploading any video that comes up in mind. It can be engineering videos, gaming, software development, reading books, anything. So I'm glad to have you here. So for today, let's start with electrical engineering, an electronic device called operational amplifier or operational amplifiers. So it is an 8-pin device, and it is often like this. So you have input voltage, output, also inverting input, non-inverting input, VCC, NCC, VCC supply, output, and then the offset. The offset is basically the input offset or the value that you have to add so that it gets to 0. For real operational amplifiers. Some values you have to add so that before you try to amplify some signals, that it won't get affected. Okay, so we have two terminals, this inverting input and then non-inverting input, and then the internal configurations are Z in minus A, Z out, and Z in is the input impedance, and minus A is the open loop gain. So you have two voltages, V2 minus V1, and then you amplify it with this gain. And also one thing I should mention is the input impedance Z in is approaching infinity, and Z out is approaching 0. And because Z in is approaching infinity, the current flowing here is 0. Because Z in is approaching infinity. Okay, so there are two types. There are real, like I said, and then ideal or ideal. Yes. And for ideal, there are two important things to know. One, the virtual mass, and also the current. I just mentioned, or I just stated that because the input impedance is going towards infinity, this current here flowing through this terminal here is 0. So one current through the terminals is ungefähr 0, so approximately 0, and also the potential difference here is 0. So meaning majority of the time the voltage here is the same thing here. To potential difference. Yeah. Okay, so that's basically what to know about about ideal operational amplifiers. And there are a lot. There are inverting operational amplifier and the non-inverting operational amplifier. This operational amplifier that I've shown here is called inverting, because if your signal here is positive, it gets inverted and then the output becomes negative. And if the input is negative, then the output becomes positive. That is why it is called inverting. It inverts that. And you can see it is being connected to this negative terminal. And if it had been connected to the positive, it would have been called non-inverting. Okay, so let's try to understand this diagram here. This diagram here, let's try to understand that a little bit. See how the output voltage looks like, and then what we can do about it. So like in like the basis of electrical engineering, current flowing through a resistor is I is equal to U divided by R. No? And like I said, because the current here is 0, the same current flows from here through this resistor. No? So you can say that IR1, so the current flowing through here, is equal to IR2, the current flowing through the second resistor. So you can express IR1 as this minus that. So 0 volt minus V in divided by the resistor R1 is equal to V out divided by R2. And now it is basically mathematics. So V out is equal to R2 divided by R1 times V in. And R2 divided by R1 is often called the gain. No, the gain. The gain. Yes. So this is basically how we can derive the output voltage of an inverting operational amplifier with respect to the input voltage. Okay, now let's try to do some exercise here. Let me just copy this one, and then let's try and see whether we understand what we just did. So this is a simple example of how so the output voltage of an inverting operational amplifier can be derived. So let's start reading through it, and then let's see whether we can solve it. So find the output of the op-amp circuit shown in the figure. Calculate the current through the feedback resistor. So 1 is the output, and 2 is current through IRF. Now, so this is the feedback resistor. So this here, because it feeds the value. So here is the feedback resistor. Yeah. So let's start with the output voltage. I know that you can plug it here, but let's assume we didn't have this formula, and then let's try and be diligent students. So we can start with 45 so the current here, and the current there. I don't like this pen, let me change it. So IR1 is equal to IR2, so you can say 0 minus 45 millivolts divided by 4 kilo ohm is equal to V0 divided by 280 kilo ohm. 280 kilo ohm, meaning is equal, so V0 is equal to minus 45 millivolts divided by 4 kilo ohm times 280 kilo ohm. And if you punch it into your calculator, you should be getting something like minus 3150 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 volts. Please don't forget to bring your units. No, it's just minus 3.15 volts. So this is the value of the output voltage V0. So we've been able to derive it. So meaning minus V0, the current is flowing in the opposite direction. Please bear it in mind. Okay. So because the current is flowing in the opposite direction, we can derive IRF, so number 2 here, as minus V0, so minus 3.15 volts, divided by the resistor. So here we are calculating this, 280 kilo ohm. And let's punch it in our calculator. We should be getting something like 11.25 micro ampere. So this is the value you should be getting at the end of your calculation. And as you can see, this is the initial part. It's not that difficult. And in case you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you very much for coming here, and see you next time.